Welcome back to a chapter a day. Happy Friday. Yay! We've made it safely through another week with God's blessings and His mercies. And I pray that you have a wonderful, restful week. And remember, the Sabbath is yours to take. It's a commandment. When last has your boss ever commanded you to take a day off? But God has commanded us to rest because He knows how He made our bodies, and we need to rest, not just for physical benefit, but for spiritual benefit, emotional benefit, mental benefit. God made us, He knows these vessels. So, rest. We deserve a rest. If God said so, let's do it. Okay. So yesterday we read 2 Chronicles chapter 15 about Asa, and I think Asa passed on, and yes, it was Asa. And he got a message from a prophet letting him know that he needed to get rid of all of the idols and other abominable things that were in Judah. And he did just that. And as God would bless him and strengthen the nation, and if they turn back to God, God would definitely prosper them. And he got rid of all of those idols. Even his mother, he moved her from being queen because she was worshiping idols. I mean, when you have to do God's bidding, sometimes you know what? You're going to have lots of enemies, even in your family. And some of us don't want to forego that. So we kind of brush things under the carpet, so to speak, and don't address things in our own families, in our own homes, with our relatives when we see things that they're doing that's contrary to God's way. But Asa didn't do that. Okay, he addressed it, and they said his heart was perfect for all his days. So let's see what, and God gave him peace for 20 years. When he got that prophecy, he was already reigning 15 years. And after he followed God's way and got rid of idolatry, God gave him 20 years of peace. Peace. That's something we all need. Peace. Okay, chapter 16. In the 6th and 30th year of the reign of Asa, Baasha king of Israel came up against Judah and built Ramah, to the intent that he might let none go out or come in to Asa king of Judah. So after the 20 years of peace, this king from Syria decides he's going to come and make problems for Judah. So he builds a city that's going to fence them in, so that none, and a lot of times when the enemies came to attack Israel, that's what they did. They kept them in, so they couldn't go out to get anything, and no one can bring anything into them. And that's definitely going to cause problems. Okay, for any nation or country or city or town, you have no sources or resources to go out or to come in to for your use. Verse 2. Then Asa brought out silver and gold out of the treasures of the house of the Lord and of the king's house, and sent to Ben-Hadad, king of Syria, that dwelt at Damascus, saying, There is a league between me and thee, as there was between my father and thy father. Behold, I have sent thee silver and gold. Go, break thy league with Baasha king of Israel, that he may depart from me. And Ben-Hadad hearkened unto King Asa, and sent the captains of his armies against the cities of Israel. And they smote Ijon and Dan and Abel Maim, and all the store cities of Naphtali. And it came to pass, when Baasha heard it, that he left off building of Ramah, and let his work cease. So apparently what's happening here, Baasha is also king of Israel. He is not from Syria. This is not a foreign enemy. This is a familiar enemy, and it's Israel. Remember, we have two sections of the people of Israel, of the tribes, Judah and Benjamin, and then the other 10 tribes. They are making up Israel, and the other two, they are Judah. Okay, so when we hear about Judah, that's what we're referring to, and then Israel, that's another section. So Baasha is coming out of Israel, and he's making war against Judah by building a fenced city. Asa, who is the king of Judah, goes to the king of Syria for help. The king of Syria's name is Ben-Hadad, and Ben-Hadad goes out and fights against um, Baasha, which is the king of Israel. And sometimes that's what we need. We need allies, or we need help. We need friends, people who can come out and help us to defeat our enemies. Verse 6. Then Asa, the king of all Judah, or took all Judah, and they carried away the stones of Ramah and the timber thereof, wherewith Baasha was building, and he built therewith Geba and Mizpah. And at that time Hanani the seer came to Asa king of Judah, and said unto him, because thou hast relied on the king of Syria, and not relied on the Lord thy God, therefore is the host of the king of Syria escaped out of thine hand. Were not the Ethiopians and the Lubims a huge host, with very many chariots and horsemen? Yet because thou didst rely on the Lord, he delivered them into thine hand. For the eyes of the Lord run to and fro throughout the whole earth, to show himself strong in the behalf of them whose heart is perfect toward him. Herein thou hast done foolishly. Therefore from henceforth thou shalt have wars. Then Asa was wroth with the seer, and put him in prison, in a prison house, for he was in a rage with him because of this thing. And Asa oppressed some of the people the same time. Oh boy, I'd say this. We can have one high rising victory with God. And then what happens? We just drop down from the mountaintop into the valley. And you know what? Because Satan comes after us even more after a victory. When we have rejoiced that God has, and he just hates the whole fact that God has brought us through in a victorious way. And that's why he comes at us with 10 times more force. And that's when we need 10 times more prayer and more of God's help. But what did Asa do after God gave him the victory over the Ethiopians and the Lubims and the Shukims and who else came against him? Here comes this king of Judah, and he goes to the king of Syria. Here comes the king of Israel, and he goes to the king of Syria for help. What happened to the God when you turned around? Is it just because you felt at that moment there was no one else who could help you but God? Because that was when they were having an ambush in front and behind them. Who else could he have called? And that's our whole problem. We call God when it's an emergency, but when it's like a regular situation in our lives, we look to do some solving of it ourselves. Why? We still need to call on God. It's the same God. The same God in an emergency is the same God who is in a simple situation. It's the same God. Ooh, so the seer told him, because you did that, you let the king of Syria get out of your hand, and now you're going to have war. Remember, he had 20 years of peace, huh? Whew, mercy. Verse 11. And I think what happens, God allows these tests to come to us to prove to us where our full allegiance lies. And this is what happened with Asa. After God's victory, because it was God's victory against the Ethiopians and the others, he just totally felt like that was all God could or would do for him. I don't know. And Satan came after him to test him, to see how strong his faith was in God. And God allowed it. It happens. God allows it, just like with Job. Okay, verse 11. And behold, the acts of Asa first and last, lo, they are written in the book of the kings of Judah and Israel. And Asa in the 39th year of his reign was diseased in his feet, until his disease was exceeding great. Yet in his disease he sought not to the Lord, but to the physicians. And Asa slept with his fathers, and died in the 41st year of his reign. And they buried him in his own sepulchres, which he had made for himself in the city of David, and laid him in the bed which was filled with sweet odors and divers kinds of spices, prepared by the apothecary's art. And they made a very great burning for him. Wow. How could we fall from grace? And we all have found ourselves in this same situation where we fall from grace. From the mountaintop, we just dive right down into the valley and smash. You know what? There's a song that says, the God of the mountain is still God in the valley. When we are high up on the mountaintop and we call for God, or the victory we got, that's the mountaintop. But guess what? That same God that led us up to the mountaintop, he didn't change. He didn't go away. He didn't send a sub. It's the same God that we call on when we are heading into the valley or have found ourselves in the valley. But what happens? God, help us, please, to always know that you are there for us wherever we go. There is no depth of hell that can hold us without you being able to reach us. Help us to know this, Lord. Help us to know this. So that's the end of our reading for 2 Chronicles chapter 16. Very interesting for us to remember. The God of the mountain is the God in the valley. He will still be there with us, whether right things are happening or wrong things are happening. We call on him. That's why we talk to God every day. We don't have to wait for a calamity. If you're waiting for a calamity, you have a genie. You don't have God. You have to be talking with God because God is our source of strength every day. I know for me for sure. When I get up in the morning, sometimes I can't sleep at night, or I get up way early in the morning and I can't go back to sleep. I'm trying to talk to God. Sometimes, your mind just goes. But I say, I might as well put it to something productive and talk to God and pray for others at the same time. Whew. Sometimes it's so tough to hear of people's victories and then their defeats right after. God help us that we remember God all the time, 24/7. Keep God in our hearts. So that's it for our reading for today. I pray you have a wonderful and restful weekend ahead. And until our next reading, keep on listening. That's how our faith grows. So take care. Bye.